In 1823, 6 years before the 49ers swarmed over the California goldfields, America's first great mining boom opened the Lake Superior frontier. The Michigan Copper Rush set a boom and bust pattern that was later associated with the American West. Fort Wilkins was built in response to the Copper Rush, and shipping on Lake Superior expanded to meet the demands of the explorers, soldiers, and miners living on this remote frontier. The prospectors and miners of the 1840s were not the earliest people to seek copper in the region. Prehistoric Indians had dug the red metal from shallow pits and used the copper for tools and ornaments. From the early 17th century, Europeans and American colonists knew that outcrops of copper existed on the shores of Lake Superior. First-hand accounts of the metal were provided by missionaries, voyageurs, and military explorers. The famed Ontonagon boulder was an object of both Native American legend and the Americans' dream of wealth. This 2-ton copper rock, now in the collection of the Smithsonian Institution, was located near present-day Rockland in the western Upper Peninsula. But the copper country was, as one 18th century American put it, beyond the most distant wilderness and remote as the moon. Early attempts at copper mining failed. In the 1830s, large amounts of copper were being consumed by the American brass and bronze industry. Businessmen who were purchasing foreign copper at inflated prices demanded an adequate domestic source. Michigan's first state geologist, Dr. Douglas Holcomb, reawakened government and private interests when he confirmed the presence of copper in the Keweenaw in 1840. Holcomb's report to the Michigan legislature, detailing his field study of the Upper Peninsula, was widely circulated among Eastern businessmen who now saw opportunity in the isolated Upper Great Lakes area. Michigan had received the western half of the Upper Peninsula when it gave up its claim to the Toledo Strip and became a state in 1837. But it wasn't until the Copper Treaty of 1842 that the United States formally purchased the western half of the UP from the Ojibwa Nation. The newly acquired land received much attention, and although no ore had been yet mined, newspapers promoted it as the El Dorado of the West. Copper Harbor, the best deep-water port in the region, became the focal point of the copper rush. In the spring of 1843, the federal government established a mineral land agency on Porter's Island at the mouth of the harbor. Its purpose was regulation of mining activity. Copper Harbor soon became a rendezvous and supply depot, a rough mining camp where one resident recalled, "The restraints of civilization sat loosely on men." The men who came to the Keweenaw were a mixed group, united mainly in a common goal of quick wealth. One observer called them a brotherhood of upstart geologists, explorers, and location speculators. Most came to Michigan from the east, traveling north from Detroit via the Great Lakes. At that time, however, shipping on Lake Superior was limited due to the rapids at Sault Ste. Marie. Some miners found space on a small schooner operating on the Big Lake. Others coasted the South Shore in open boats or canoes. Still other copper seekers struck north from the lead mines of northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Fearful of problems that might arise by miners in an area so recently purchased from the Ojibwa, the federal government sent in the United States Army to build Fort Wilkins. The troops were to serve as a buffer between copper hunters and Indians to ensure civil order and to enforce the federal authority in land claims. Fort Wilkins was the northern anchor in a chain of military posts extending from Keweenaw Point to the Gulf of Mexico, which formed the western line of national defense. It was, in fact, built in anticipation of local police requirements that were never really necessary. Other forts in Michigan at that time were located at Sault Ste. Marie, Mackinac Island, and Port Huron. Each garrison reported to the regimental commander at Detroit. Fort Wilkins was a typical military post of the mid-19th century. This small garrison community contained separate living quarters for officers, enlisted men, and married enlisted personnel, as well as workshops, storehouses, and other support buildings. As in all frontier military outposts, monotony and isolation weighed heavily on the garrison. But national events soon intervened. As the threat of war with Mexico increased, military units were shifted to the southern border. Thus, the garrison at Fort Wilkins was reduced by half in 1845. The remainder departed in the following year, leaving behind a single military caretaker. Over the next 2